we're just got played and we are gaming through mechanisms. So what does that mean? Well, when we play board games, card games, the way that you interact with the game, we call those mechanisms. We give them names, labels, talk about them so that we can kind of say, well, this game is like this because it shares mechanisms with this other game and helps us relate things, right? So speaking of those board game mechanisms, today we're going to talk about polyomino games. So polyominoes, right? The definition of polyominoes is something like component squares that can be aligned on the long edge or something, right? And so if you have a bunch of pieces that are made up of 5 component squares, that's pentominoes, which is a popular board game thing. If you have 4 squares that are aligned, you make the different pieces that are called tetrominoes.
I played Foursquare in school.
Tetris. Foursquare. And then even dominoes, I guess, are polyominoes, right? Because they have 2 different ways that can be oriented. Interestingly enough, they also talk about single and double-sided polyominoes. And the difference is always you can rotate polyominoes, but whether or not you can mirror them, right? So if they're single-sided, you can't mirror them. And then these are 2 different polyominoes. But if they're double-sided, you can just flip it over and now it's the same polyomino. Interesting. So yeah, I mean, like if you get into, I think it's tetrominoes, there's like 5, but if you don't, if they're single-sided, there's 7 or something like that. Yeah. Anyway, so the other important thing about the shape of what a polyomino is, there has to be something in the game where you're putting these things together, like in a puzzle fashion, right? If there's just stuff that's polyomino shapes, it's not a polyomino game. You have to be able to put it together. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a thing that you're grabbing and putting together, because there are roll and writes that use polyomino shapes as well. So, so there are a lot of different types of games. But in general, that's what polyomino games are. I'm sure somebody would disagree with me about whether domino games are polyomino games. There's never any agreement on any of these board game mechanisms. Some people would say tile laying is a polyomino, even though it's only one shape, and so it's not poly. I don't know, whatever. But I've heard lots of ridiculous things researching this. But putting all that aside, Discord. Yeah.
Come to Discord, argue with us.
But putting all that aside, what is important is we're going to tell you some good games that are definitely polyomino games. And we are going to start with Erock's top pick.
Okay. If you've been watching us lately, I don't think this is going to be any kind of a shock. My top polyomino game is by far A Feast for Odin. I absolutely love A Feast for Odin. It's incredibly deep with all the options. If you haven't seen any of my previous rants, I'll just give you a brief introduction. I will start out by saying there are approximately 61 action spaces. So that pretty much gives you an idea of what's going on there. You can do so many different things. And you never get like blocked out. Now you might get blocked out of the one thing that you really wanted to do, but there's 50 other things you can do. So you can always manage to put a good turn together, even after you've gotten blocked out of your space. I really like it a lot. There's a million different paths to victory. And I think the paths to victory have a lot to do with how the players play the game, not just any particular path that's more powerful than anything else. Another thing I really like about the game, I just think it's fantastic. It's part of that Uwe chain that goes all the way back to Agricola and then kind of mutated into Caverna. And this is kind of a mutation of that, but it's not the same. You're not building a little farm and putting little animals and stuff. I mean, okay, you are kind of building a little farm and putting animals into, but it's just different. It's different like that. You're not like putting fences out to, this is more about just gathering stuff to play this polyomino game where you're trying to cover up these spaces in like your own hold, and then islands you conquer, and you can build houses and you can build sheds, and they all have basically minus points on them. So as you put these pieces out, which could be anything, depending upon the building, I could put a cow in there, and that's going to take up like 12 spots. Well, if those were all -1s, I just basically gained 12 points by putting that down, and some of them might require more higher things on the list. So maybe just treasures and things like that I can put on them. But the point is they all come in all these different shapes and sizes, and you fit them into all your little things, like your own hole, like I said, your own hole, the islands that you go out to, places, things that you build, all these things. And you're basically just forming them up on these boards. They have an interesting mechanism in there that I like a lot, which is most of the boards have resources on them. And if you completely surround a resource, you get that at the end of every round. That's really cool. So it kind of feeds into this engine builder idea because you're managing to make more things as you go. I could probably talk for hours about it because it's just so deep and there's so much going on there, but I absolutely love it. A Feast for Odin. I do not recommend it if you are particularly new to the hobby, unless you have somebody that's going to be very knowledgeable that is going to teach you, because it's a bear to just sit down and be like, all right, where do I start? So, but
yeah,
if
you could talk about the game for hours, or you could play one round,
or you could play around. Yes.
No. So I have to confess, I threw this over to you first because I knew you were going to pick a Feast for Odin. Polyomino games in general skew very light, very simple, but there's this one that is not. A Feast for Odin is heavy. And so I kind of wanted to throw that out first for the shock factor. So I'm glad you did not disappoint me, man.
Indeed. I am here to see.
Have you played it on BGA yet?
I've played a ton on BGA.
Yeah, I'm scared to do it because I know it's going to be so many. I got to scroll all the way up and down that board. I'm like, I don't want to run out of time doing it. So
hey, I'll tell you the best thing about playing on BGA. I don't want to get into the complete rundown of the instructions, but you can play it solo on BGA. So I played my first 2 games solo just to get used to playing the game. Awesome.
He's not going to play that solo.
Play that solo. Fly over my PlayStation if I want to do that. But I get your point, though. Yeah, I would just, if somebody had it at a party or something, I would just study the board and then try to remember that for BGA. But yeah.
Well, of course, the good thing about BGA is you just hover over anything and it tells you what it does. That's just fantastic. So highly recommend. This is going in my top something. I haven't reorganized my list in quite a while, and there's been a whole lot of new stuff I've played since I've done it, but it's going to be in my top something. It's really
good. Hey, we're waiting for your top 100 videos, man.
Indeed.
We're waiting for that on the channel. All right. So, JJ, I see you're wearing that old school shirt, man. So are we going old school with our Polyomino games or what?
Never played Tetris.
Yeah.
Believe you're
Tetris 99.
You're playing Tetris, sir.
No, I don't have what? All right, so polyomino dominoes. Let me see. Hold on. Let me get this name right. So, okay, my pick for polydominoes is In the Hall of the Mountain King. Hold on. It's that one. In the Hall of the Mountain King. That is mine. I played it once. And I loved it. And then I forgot the name of it. That's why I have to look it up right now. And then I'm like, oh, it's the Fall of the Mountain King. Like, no, wait. I didn't play that one. It's In the Hall of the Mountain King. I played it once with a friend after he got it off the Kickstarter. And then I forgot the name. And I was like, man, we need to play that game again. This was like 3 years ago when I played this. So I barely remember it. Had to look it up today. And I was like, oh, there's another one. So I got to play that one too. So that's on the list. I don't know if it's similar or not. But In the Hall of the Mountain King, you're using your polyominoes to build the best tunnel because you are an orc or goblin or something. You got kicked off the mountain, so you got to find your way back into the treasury and go back and get your gold because that's what goblins like is gold. I'm pretty sure that's right. But instead of doing the puzzle thing with like most polyominoes, you have to build the best dungeon. So you're actually just trying to not match up all your sides, which is different than most polyominoes games. You're actually trying to match the least amount of sides and have the most efficient tunnel. So that part I liked. I was like, what? I'm sitting there looking at the board. I was like, all right, so I'm gonna play Tetris and put this in there and then put that and like, no, you don't want to do that. You want to have the least touching. I'm like, what? Broke my brain. I didn't even understand because I'm like, I played Tetris for years. I don't understand this mechanism. But then I ended up loving it because I was like, all right, so I'm going to go snake around this way. And then I tried to think of the snake game that on the Nokia phones where you're trying to eat and make the longest snake. So I was like, I got it now. Try to make the longest snake and eat all the things on the way and not touch the thing. Because if you snake around and touch your own side, I think something bad happens. Like I said, it was like 3 years ago. But yeah, so I was going around getting all the goblins, building the best team and trying to get all the resources while building my pyramid. So try to get to needless to say, it was my first time. So I got distracted with trying to, and somebody just ran up there and won the thing and ended up winning. So I got to play it again. Now that I remember what the name is, I have to play it again because I really liked it. I knew that much. Now that I remember the name, and then I got to go play the second one. So I don't even know what the Fall of the Mountain King is. So very interesting. Looking forward to playing it again. I see some people got it in the back of their background there. So
yeah, actually, I like this a lot. Like you, I played it one time. I liked it a lot, and the group was like, it was okay. I was like, you guys are crazy. This game was really good. And you know what the main complaint was? All right, so when you recruit your chiefs or whatever, you know how like that one goes off, but then you build a pyramid. So you have like 3 of them, and then 2 of them, and then 1 of them. So when you recruit one, that one goes off, and then so does everything underneath it, right?
Yeah.
The complaint was it doesn't happen enough. I'm like, that's not the point. The point is it happens just enough to get you to the end of the game. That's how it's supposed to work. So I'm with you, man. I really like this game. We're going to play.
Okay. Yeah. We add that to the list of the other 20 we got to add. So, yeah. All right. We can do that. Yeah. So that's my first pick for polyominoes.
Well, unlike you guys, everybody loves the games that I picked. So, I mean, everybody that I played them with anyway.
What?
When I first started making this list, I thought for sure King Domino was going to be on my list because my kids love it so much. But in the end, I chose 2 games that are both space-themed polyomino games that are about covering stuff up, of course, to score points. And so the first one I'm going to talk about is Cosmic Colonies. So this was a Kickstarter that I backed. It's from Scott Alms, who does all the Tiny Epic games, and several other things. And I really like this game. Everybody has an asteroid, and you're trying to cover up different parts of the asteroid to score points. But probably the other interesting component of the gameplay besides the polyomino element is that you have cards. And these cards you've got to play 2 different, maybe call them workers or something. The cards represent people. And you're going to play 2 of those during your turn. And those workers, some of them have a higher number, which means they go first. And the ones that have you want to go first because there are a limited number of polyominoes on offer that round, or a limited amount of resources on offer that round. And the cards that you play also have like a carrying capacity, like how many of the resources they can take. And you need the resources to be able to buy the polyominoes to put them on your board to cover up the things to score the points. So you do have to get that stuff eventually. But also the cards that are the lower numbers that go later also have like special abilities that they give you. Like one of them is, I think I have it right that the higher numbers go first and the lower numbers go later. Maybe I've got that reversed. But anyway, there's one card that goes later and it lets you take extra resources. So like, hey, that's cool. Maybe I need a bunch of resources. But if you're going later behind everybody, the resources might be gone. So you're not going to get any extra, right? So strategic timing about when you're going to play these different cards. And then the other thing is, once you play a card, those cards pass to your opponent on your left for them to be able to play the next turn. So sometimes you want to just hold a card, right? You're not ready to give that card to your opponent so that they can use it the next round and, mess you up in some way. So it's got this interesting card play that I really like about it. But the base, what are you trying to do is get these polyomino shapes onto this asteroid to build this sort of base where you're mining or whatever, thematically you're doing to this asteroid. This game has, I think, sort of flown under the radar. I think it's a really good production too. It's got like nice little plastic pieces and stuff for the resources. I never really hear anybody talking about this, but I got it from Kickstarter and we play it. I think it's fantastic. I haven't found anybody who dislikes the game yet, or even just said it was meh. They're all just like,
I don't think I've even heard of it. So that sounds great.
Yeah. Great game. We'll all get together and play it sometime.
Add it to the
But
list.
Anyway, add it to the list. But that is
We're gonna have the top 100 games that we need to all play together. By the time we're done with this, like 2 months.
Right.
We'll live stream it.
All 100, yeah.
But that is my first Polyominoes in Space game. There will be more. All right. Well, let's go back to JJ. Is your next game in space?
Actually, it is. So I'm glad I'm glad you're letting me go first.
I know you love space.
Exactly. So I'm glad because I'm pretty sure you're going to take my pick. So I'm glad I'm going first. Let me see. It is Planet Unknown is my space polyominoes game. So basically, you're just trying to make the unknown the planet the best. Each player has their own little planet board, and they got to discover it and terraform it or whatever it is the fastest. And you got a rover to go search for stuff to pick up these asteroids that hit the planet. And you got different pieces and different tracks you got to go up on. So I like it specifically because it is a great 6-player game. It goes very well. Everybody's doing their own action. Everybody has simultaneous actions, which I like. You have the little spinner thing that holds the pieces, and the start player gets to move it around however they want, and then it stops it, and you have 2 pieces to choose from. So that's good because you only have two things to choose, and then you got to put on your board. That's one of the ones you were talking about that has the double side, so you can flip it over, and you just try to fill in your little planet as much as you can before anybody else does. I like moving up on the tracks and getting the special things. I just like it. It gets Jim Jam's stamp of approval for high player counts because everybody, and it flows quickly. And it was over before I even really did anything, it seemed like. Because once one of those stacks empties, whatever shape it is, it's like, man, you really hope it's not the one piece you were waiting the whole game to get because it never came around to you. And everybody's a big old jerk because they can see what piece you need. So I'm going to keep that little T. I'm going to keep swirling that around until you can't get to it, or the square. It's like, oh, you guys are a bunch of jerks. And then I like that each row and column scores differently at the end of the game if you manage to fill it out. So you're trying to work your way to one side or the other to get the most points. And that's where I kind of missed out on because I was trying to do that at the end to get the bigger points. But, I'll play it again, especially if there's like 6 people because, like I said, it's great. One of those games that just scales very nicely because all the simultaneous movement. So Planet Unknown, pretty pieces and everything.
Yeah. So that spinner thing in the middle, it's called Lazy Susan, and then they even call it Susan, like S.U.S.A.. I don't know what it stands for, but it's pretty.
Oh, that's right. They did call it a Lazy Susan right, yeah. in the game.
But in this game too, right? Like you feel like
cheese odor. Does anybody smell cheese?
Oh, you never find that in board games. Yeah. But I always feel in this game that I'm gonna fill up my planet. Like I've got this strategy. I'm gonna get these pieces. I'm gonna fill up my planet, and then the game just always ends when you're just a little bit short of filling up your planet. So, which is good, right? I mean, if you filled up your planet and there were still turns to go, I don't even know what you would do. So, but it's got a lot going on. You got all those tracks to go. You got to clear these meteors off your planet, otherwise those columns and rows would score. And that, But at the same time, it's simple. It's just like this track does this, this track does this, this track does this, right? It's not hard to explain, and it's simultaneous play. So the game is quick. Yeah, I love it. And that is why it is also my second pick, as you
said. Beat him.
And I would also like to say that Cory can't be here today to film with us, but he seems to be on this Polyomino game kick. And this was one of his 2 picks as well, Planet Unknown. Good. So very, very popular from the Just Got Played crew and, everybody else.
And it was Cory's game that I played. So I'm glad I beat him. I think I scored more than he did in it. Beat him twice now. So
all right, cool. Well, I guess we got to go back to Erock for his second pick then.
Really good pick, though. I can't blame you. It was definitely on my short list. That's a really cool game. The simultaneous play is fantastic. And it just seems like a gimmick, which is why I didn't back it in the first place. I was like, oh, look at this. They threw a Lazy Susan in the game. But it works really well. It's a very good game. Like I said, made my short list, not my number 2. I am going to make you mad with my number 2. So everybody, Warm up your typing fingers.
Breaking the rules, are you?
This card and tell me how I'm wrong. Because my number 2 is Tapestry. I really like Tapestry. It is really cool. And the polyomino is a kind of a minor part of this game. It's not much of what's going on, but it's still part of this game.
That don't really fit on the board.
Exactly. Right? That's the buildings, which you don't really build either. You know, if you've ever played Tapestry, it sells itself as a civilization game. It's really not a civilization game, but what it is really fun. So I think if you can just get away from that idea that like, I'm building the civilization from scratch, it's really not like that. It's more like you just going up tracks. I mean, if I'm going to break this game down into the most simplest thing in the world, each side of a 4-sided board has a track, and on your turn, you decide which track you're going up. That's the game. But I really like it. I think it's really cool. I think it's interesting decisions in there. I've seen a lot of people say, you don't make any decisions. I'm like, yes, you do. Because you have to make this stuff work right together, just like in any other game. Like the decisions are there. It just seems like they're limited because as opposed to a game with like 61 actions, you're just moving up on one of 4 tracks. And then something happens because of that. And that's basically the entire game. You get to switch out like your civilization like 3 times a game. It's not really switching out. It's supposed to be this. See, this is the civilization theme that they kind of threw on here is you're supposed to be like evolving your civilization, but none of this actually works that way. Like just as for instance, the technologies, you would think that technologies would somehow build upon each other, but they don't. You just flip over cards. And in the very first turn of the game, you could have airplanes. You know what I'm saying? And then at the very end of the game, you might flip over and get, oh, well, I'm going to get fire. You know what I mean? So like, it doesn't really mesh that way. So that's kind of what I'm saying. Like, do not go into this.
You're really selling it.
I know, right? Do not go into this game thinking I'm going to build a civilization. It's going to be this grand thing. No, it's not like that. But it is really fun going up these tracks and trying to make this stuff work. I really like it. Like I said, the polyomino part isn't that big of a part of the game, but you can score a ton of points that way. Because when you start, you're basically trying to do either complete a row, complete a column. I think I did that backwards, but complete a row, complete a column, or complete the 9 squares inside the square. And when you do that, you get a bonus, and the rows and the columns will score you a lot of points. So it's not really a lot of the action part of this game, but there's definitely a lot of things that feed into it. A lot of the times just moving up a track and being the first person to go to a spot will get you one of these buildings. And the buildings are the polyominoes. They're different shapes. They're filling up different parts of your board. So that's the polyomino part. But I really like Tapestry. And also, you can play it on Board Game Arena. Just saying.
Not a sponsor.
Yeah, it's
not right.
Yeah, not a sponsor. Not yet. Not yet. Hold on, we keep talking about it, but okay. So yes, I have to jump in on this because Tapestry is a great game. I love it, but my OCD doesn't like how you have those fancy buildings and they don't fit on the board correctly. I just don't understand. It doesn't make any sense. Why are you having this in there? Get out of here. Like, why?
I mean,
but for what it's worth, I agree.
He found the buildings and the art and the sculptures before he designed the game and was just like, I want to cram these into a game.
But like, make the board different then, or something. Make it so that God. Yes. So I see it on sale and I was like, oh man, I really love the game, but I can't buy it. But I will play it if somebody brings it out. I'll jump on there. But it's just like those.
If it's going to drive you that crazy, you can actually go to like Etsy and they have like little 3D printed that you can put them in bases so that they are exactly.
Oh, great. So I have to spend another $30 on an $80 game. That's great. That's what I want to do. That's why I got into board gaming.
Is it really that expensive? And
I don't know. Everything on Etsy is like $50 or something for everything on
Somebody's
Etsy.
Somebody's like hand carving it out of a solid block of plastic on Etsy.
If it was like $30 to buy the game, on sale or something, maybe I would do that. But it doesn't make any sense.
You just wait for the upcoming Prime Day. It'll be in there for cheap.
Yeah, indeed.
But I haven't played Tapestry. The concept was interesting to me when it was first announced. Then I heard people talking about the game. I was like, maybe it isn't going to deliver on what I was expecting. But I was on the Dice Tower cruise with my wife, and I had gone off to do something. I don't know, maybe go to the gym or something. I came back to the conference room, and my wife was just sitting there playing Tapestry with some random people who had flagged her down while she was walking by. And I was like, oh, cool. All right. What'd you think of it? And she really liked the game. So, it's got some broad appeal.
Indeed.
Yeah,
is that
really,
a pun because it was your wife? It had broad appeal.
Oof.
She is a broad.
Oof.
She's a smoking hot broad. My wife.
Let's
I'm
get
gonna
to
send
people's
this clip. Well, Lloyd had that other short from the other video about the polls, so I had to have my own short there. Yeah. So, all right. Okay. So the People's Choice. When I threw the People's Choice poll out there, I was like, I know what number 1's going to be. I know what number 2 is going to be. Why am I even doing this poll? Well, this is why we do the poll. I nailed it on number 1. Probably everybody did, but number 2 was a surprise. So before we get to the surprise, let's go with the obvious choice here. The game that I think I hear people mention most often when you say, hey, do you like polyomino games? They say, oh yeah, I like
Patchwork. Yeah.
Patchwork. All right, Erock, why don't you tell us about Patchwork?
Absolutely. I know Tiff likes this game a whole lot. She wasn't able to make it tonight, but she did have this as one of her choices. And she said, yeah, but everybody likes Patchwork. And yeah, exactly. That's why it's the People's Choice, because everybody likes Patchwork. It's a 2-player game, which is really cool. I like very small, specific 2-player games to fill that niche when it's just me and her, and we have, an hour. Let's throw this game out, and Patchwork's one of the ones that's absolutely on the top of our 2-player list. Obviously, it only plays 2 players, but really, it's a very simple game where you kind of move down this spiral, and it has that. Stephen, is there a definition for that? Where the last person back, it's their turn.
Yeah, it's called like time track.
Yeah. Okay. Time. So you're working on time track. So I might take basically like all the tiles are arrayed in a circle, and you get to choose like where you're at is like marked by something, and then you get to choose one of the next 3 tiles. Right. But each one of them costs a certain amount of buttons, which is also points. And so I might choose one that costs 8 buttons, and that will move me. No, it's 8 time. It might also cost buttons, but it might also have 8 time on it. So I might choose one that takes 8 time, and that'll move me like way down the spiral. And then it's her turn. She might choose one that costs 4, and then 2, and then 3 till she finally catches up and passes me. So it's one of those games that I really like. Like I said, the polyominoes are in a big circle around there, so you can kind of gauge what's going to be there when it's your turn. You can look and say, well, she chooses that. She's going to move 4, and then it'll be my turn, and then I'll have those 3 to look at. But you don't have to look the whole way around the circle. You know what I mean? Even if you're not exactly right on your guess, it's kind of in this pie section here that you're going to get to choose from. So it kind of gives you a little bit of time on the other person's turn to look ahead, kind of plan ahead. And basically you're just trying to make a quilt, which is why it's called Patchwork. And that's it. You just keep taking turns, as in whoever's behind, it's their turn, until you get to the end of the spiral. And then you count up the points and see who wins. I really like it. It's Patchwork.
It's funny. I love time track games. One of my favorite mechanisms. I like polyomino games. And to be fair, I have only played Patchwork solo on the app.
Interesting.
But I fell a little flat for me. And I think it's just the theme.
Same
here. I just don't care about.
Yeah, you're just getting patches and making a quilt.
I will go on record as the second person that didn't feel it. I played it with somebody that really enjoyed it, and one time, and I was like, eh.
I mean, I recognize that it's a good game, and I would play it if somebody wanted to play it with me. But also because it's a 2-player game, I don't really feel a need to own it, and I would never probably suggest. There were a lot of other 2-player games I would suggest first anyway before Patchwork. Mm-hmm. But yeah, no, I get why people like it. It's a solid game. Yeah,
indeed.
All right, cool. So
also Uwe. So yeah, 2 Uves on this list.
Oh, well, there's always, if you don't have an Uwe, you've got a kinesia, right? I mean, it's just, I don't know.
It sounds like you need to go to the doctor, sir.
Needs you tape? No.
All right. So, and here's the game that surprised me because I thought.
Surprise us, Steven.
Well, I thought the second place was going to be Baron Park, and it's not. There for a while there, I thought second place was going to be King Domino in the polls, and it's not, because in the end, and it was close. There were several games actually that were jockeying for second place, but in the end, when I called it, the second place game is Isle of Cats.
Whoa, look at that!
So Isle of Cats is so I don't own Isle of Cats, but I think it's a really good game. And thematically, what's going on is I think there's a volcano destroying an island, and so you're trying to rescue the cats from the island before they die or the island sinks or whatever the heck. So you're just trying to get these cats off the island. So you've got a boat, and you want to capture these cats and fit them into the places on your boat, and you score different points depending on the colors of the cats. And filling up different areas of the boat with your cats. And you can also get some treasure and stuff to go in there with it. But there's this card play where you're drafting cards, right? And so you've got to get boxes to put the cats in when you're rescuing them. But you've also got to use the cards to get fish, which is what you use to pay to buy the cats. So you have to buy the cats from this sort of offer board and put them in the crate and then put them on your thing. But then also in those cards, you've got public and private objectives. So you can put objectives in play that everybody can score, and you can put objectives that just you privately can score. So there's actually a lot going on. It's not complicated as a game, but there's a lot of stuff going on in those cards that you're drafting, fitting the polyominoes on your board. And then thematically, I think people just like, having a bunch of cats crowded together on their boat. It is a really good production. I mean, it's a big box. It's a big game with a lot of big cat pieces or whatever. And like I said, I really enjoy it. So I'm not surprised that Isle of Cats would be one of the popular people's choice polyomino games. I'm just surprised it was more popular than those other ones that I listed.
A lot of cat people out there. So
it is very popular. Well, I've never actually played this one. Just, one of those things. Too many games in the world. Sorry.
Same here. It's on the shelf. I've heard nothing but good things in it. The theme is not so much. I mean, I like cats in real life, but cat games not so much. But I will play it eventually.
Yeah, no, I think you guys would enjoy it. And it's funny. I didn't even think about it with the drafting, right? Because it is card drafting. Yeah, and when we did the drafting video, I guess I was interesting. Cats, but yeah. Well, there's a lot of good card drafting games out there too, right? So.
Yeah, we named a lot of them, actually.
yeah, exactly. Go watch that video. But now is the point when you look in the description of the video and you see that we have a Discord channel, and you come to that Discord channel and you tell us, you idiots, what about this polyomino game? You didn't mention Copenhagen or something. I don't know. Or cartographers, the roll and write that was a polyomino, or Tiny Towns, which is essentially a polyomino. Not really, but yes, it is.
No, it's not. Stop. It is not a polyomino game. You're putting cubes into squares and they collapse into one thing. So no.
Or between two cities, because it's got the round.
No.
Draft the 2-length domino tiles.
No. That's tile placement. That is not polyomino.
Okay.
Except for that middle round when it's dominoes.
No, dominoes don't count either. That's also tile placement. It has to be different shapes.
This is when you come to our Discord and you tell me that I'm an idiot. Which is
you're going to tell me that I'm an idiot, and that's fine. Bring it on.
Yeah, but go in there and tell them they're idiots.
There are links down here to our Facebook group, which is where we put those polls. And there's links to our
check out our polls.
Instagram. Yeah.
Are we talking about one more there from our ghost member that couldn't make it?
I
forgot one. Yeah.
I did forget. Right.
He's still there. He's still part of the group. You may not see him, but he's still there.
I did talk about Cory when we talked about Planet Unknown, but I did forget. Yes.
Yeah.
Cory wanted to make sure that we mentioned his number one pick, his favorite polyomino game.
Okay.
JJ, bring it home.
I will talk about this because it's like a little theme with Cory now, because he introduced me to Planet Unknown, his first pick, and then he introduced me to his second pick, Tenpenny Parks. So it's kind of strange because Tenpenny Parks is another one where you don't fit the polyomino pieces in. You actually don't want them to touch, which is very strange. So you have your own board and you're trying to make the best little carnival circus better than everybody else. There's a little bit of worker placement when you go in and getting the pieces and getting the cards and stuff like that. But on your board, you don't want the attractions. Like if I have a Ferris wheel, I don't want it to be by the whatever else, I don't even know, carnival stuff. You don't want the pieces to touch. That was very confusing to me because it's kind of like the Sims amusement park, right?
Like you're doing walkways in between them and things like that.
Yeah, like the amusement park, roller coaster tycoon or whatever. Yeah. So you don't want your roller coaster next to your Ferris wheel, so you have to like put them a distance apart. So you're trying to fill up your board, but not fill up your board, and then you got to clear the trees out because you know deforestation, and then you got to cut the trees down and then put your amusement rides there. And then it's a little bit of take that because there is a track where you want to be first on the track, and the farther along you're on the track, you get more points during that round. There's like 3 scoring phases, and then there's different like objective cards that you want to fulfill, and then you want to add to your board so you can put more rides on there. And then all that gets you money, and then like money, victory points or whatever is how you win the game. So I thought it was cool because it's that polynomial thing, but you don't want your pieces to touch. So yeah, that I got to play it again. We only played it the one time, so I got to play it again because everybody kept taking my space. There's one track, which is the only annoying thing is like there's one track that's really good to get high on, and the other ones are like eh. And then, but yeah, so if you get, there's really no catch-up mechanic either. So if you get farther along the track, there's no way somebody else can beat you. So it's mostly just a race for first and second place. But you know, it was fun when I played it, so I got to play it again. And of course, you know, Cory must really like this because that's 2 games now that he's showed me and that I actually liked. So probably
it's funny. I played a game that was similar. Like I think it's called the Grand Carnival, where you're building a carnival and you have to leave space between your rides to move these people through so that they can visit them and you get tickets for them visiting or whatever.
Yeah, roller coaster tycoon.
Like dueling banjos. We got to do a versus video.
Yeah, sure.
We could do it like a cage match. Be like Cory with one of them and JJ with the other one. And be like, no, it's Tenpenny Parks. No, it's Carnival, whatever that game was called.
I think it was the Grand Carnival.
There you go, the Grand Carnival.
Wait, there's only 3 of us here. We must have mentioned like 24 games at this point.
Yes. It takes practice, people.
Nice. Okay, well, would you like to see us post random pictures of board games and random funny memes about board games and generally talk as if we're experts on board games? Then, yeah, come to our Facebook group, follow us on Twitter, follow us on Instagram, come to the Discord group. And we'll have more of these Gaming Through Mechanisms videos. I would love it if you would come vote on the polls. You get to add games to the polls. You get to vote on the games that you think fit. You know, don't just come in there and say that Wingspan qualifies in every category or anything, but you know.
I mean, go say
it. You said fit. That was a good polynomial. Yeah, you said fit. Again.
All right. Well, we are Just Got Played. This is Gaming Through Mechanisms. I'm Steven. That's JJ. That's Erock. And thanks for joining us.
Thanks a lot, y'all. Happy gaming. See you next time.
Bye.